You have been making student loan repayments every single month, watching the money leave your payslip, assuming you are paying off a debt. You are not. What you actually have is not a loan. It never was. And once you understand what it actually is, you are going to look at your payslip very differently. By the end of this video, you are going to understand what your student loan actually is, whether making extra repayments makes any financial sense, and the one way your student loan genuinely affects your finances that most people have never calculated. Because for years, millions of graduates have been worrying about the wrong thing. Most people think of their student loan like a credit card, or a mortgage, a debt hanging over their head, something they need to clear, something they should feel guilty about owing. But that is not how the system actually works. A Plan 2 student loan functions much more like a graduate tax. You repay 9% of everything you earn above £29,385, automatically, straight from your payslip, just like income tax, just like national insurance. If your income goes up, you pay more. If your income goes down, you pay less. If you lose your job, repayments stop, automatically. No penalty, no missed payment marker, no damage to your credit file. And after 30 years, whatever is left gets written off, completely, tax-free. Now here is the statistic that should completely change how most graduates think about their student loan. Only around 25% of Plan 2 borrowers will ever fully repay their loan before it gets written off. That means roughly 75% never will. 3 out of 4 graduates. And that is not a failure. That is how the system was designed. Think about that. Millions of people have spent years feeling stressed about a balance they were never realistically going to clear anyway. And here is something most Plan 2 graduates have not heard yet. From April 2027, that repayment threshold is being frozen for 3 years. It will not rise with inflation, which means every year wages grow, more of your income becomes subject to that 9% repayment. The government is doing to student loans exactly what it did to income tax thresholds, a stealth increase without changing a single rate. And that misunderstanding gets even worse when people see the interest rate. The current Plan 2 interest rate is up to 6.2%. That sounds concerning. For most people, it is almost completely irrelevant. Let me show you why. Imagine somebody has a student loan balance of £45,000. At 6.2% interest, roughly £2,790 gets added to that balance every year. Now imagine that person earns £35,000. Their repayment is roughly £50 per month, about £600 per year. The interest being added is still significantly higher than the repayments being made. The balance is growing, not shrinking. And here is the part most graduates never realize. For the 75% of borrowers who will never repay in full, the balance growing makes almost no difference whatsoever. Whether the balance becomes £45,000, £60,000, £80,000, or more, their repayment is still based on salary, not the balance. That number you keep checking is not what determines what you pay each month. Your income does. The interest rate only really matters for people who are almost certain to repay the loan in full before the write-off. Typically higher earners with strong salaries throughout their career. For everyone else, the balance becoming larger is mostly a psychological burden, not a financial one. And that misunderstanding leads people into one of the biggest student loan mistakes graduates make: making extra repayments. This is the part that genuinely changes behavior. Because making extra repayments feels responsible. It feels sensible. It feels like paying off debt. For most Plan 2 borrowers, it is the wrong move. Think about what happens if your loan is going to be written off after 30 years anyway. Every extra pound you voluntarily repay is a pound that was heading towards write-off. You are not reducing what you would have paid through salary deductions. You are reducing the balance that eventually disappears. That is completely different. The average debt among Plan 2 borrowers who finished university in 2024 was £53,000. Most of those borrowers are never going to clear that balance before write-off, which means for many graduates, voluntarily overpaying is simply giving extra money to a loan that was never going to be fully repaid. That same money could be going into a pension, an ISA, or investments that compound for decades. The only people who should seriously consider extra repayments are people who are confident they will repay the entire balance before the write-off date. For everyone else, the calculation is very different. But there is one part of the student loan system that genuinely affects most graduates, and almost nobody calculates it. Your mortgage. Because when you apply for a mortgage, lenders look at your monthly commitments, and student loan repayments count. Not because of the balance, because of the deduction. The repayment coming out of your payslip reduces what lenders think you can afford, and depending on income and circumstances, that can reduce maximum borrowing by somewhere between £25,000 and £75,000. That is huge. For many graduates trying to buy their first home, the biggest impact of the student loan is not the debt itself, it is the borrowing power it quietly takes away. That is the consequence most people were never warned about. Not the balance, not the interest rate, the mortgage impact. And once you understand that, the whole conversation changes. Because your student loan is not really a debt in the way most people think. It is not a credit card. It is not a bank loan. And for most graduates, it is not something they will ever fully repay. It is a graduate contribution linked to income, one that eventually disappears. The real mistake is spending years worrying about the wrong number, because the balance is not what shapes your financial future. Understanding the system does. Subscribe to Pound Smart Pete, because there is a lot more the system hoped you would never find out.